Hello, everyone, and welcome to the South Bay channel. This is South Bay speaking out on what could be considered the topic of the hour, the world's only two religions, and how one of them in particular will affect your life in a big way in the very near future. Now, why is this important? Well, it's because the events of the last 4 years in this country, the United States, and the world in general have thrown into sharp relief the dominant paradigm, the primary religion of the ruling class, if you will, which was designed as both a philosophy and a political worldview, and was forced upon all of us during the crisis events of the years 2020 and 21. And even today, it continues to rear its ugly head as world events spiral ever more quickly toward a catastrophic shift in how America is to be governed. The point of this podcast is to discuss the two religions that will play a central role in the coming months and years, why it matters, and how it will affect you. And without holding you in any further suspense, I'm going to tell you what those religions are right now. They are Christianity and communism. Now, for most of you, Christianity needs no introduction, but you may be wondering why I've chosen to call communism a religion. Let me explain. First of all, communism is the default mechanism of nearly every government that has ever existed. Granted that most governments don't usually end up devolving into full-blown communism, but if allowed to reach their full logical conclusion, communism is the inevitable result. This is because the primary purpose of government is, as the word implies, to govern people and ultimately to control them. That's important to emphasize since communism is first and foremost a means of control. Communism is formally defined as a government in which the means of production are owned and controlled by the state. Now, this begs the question, what are the means of production? Well, ultimately, people are the means of production by which goods and services are produced, which means that under communism, people are the means of production and the state owns the people. In other words, communism is state-run slavery. Communism is also what happens when atheism prevails among the people and the traditional concept of God is replaced with absolute obedience to the state, with the state taking the place of God. And this explains the religious significance of communism. To further elucidate this religious aspect of communism, consider what someone has defined as God. That is, God is whoever or whatever you turn to in your time of need. For multitudes today, government is what they turn to when they're in need, be it for health care, money, food, assistance, social security, etc. Government has basically become the god of the masses. Now, you may be asking, how exactly does communism tie into the other religions of the world? Well, much like communist government itself, most religions enslave the practitioner while Christianity sets them free. More specifically, the major religions of the world all have one thing in common. They answer to the government of a single man. For instance, in Islam, that man is the grand imam. For Judaism, that man is the chief rabbi for both the Sephardi and Ashkenazi. For Buddhism, the man is the Dalai Lama, and for Roman Catholicism, of course, that man is the Pope. Biblical Christianity, however, answers to no one except Jesus Christ, not to a man or to an earthly government. In 2020, the World Economic Forum brazenly declared that in the not-too-distant future, quote, you will own nothing and be happy, end quote, which in no uncertain terms means that communism is on the horizon for the world's inhabitants. The transition from representative or Republican-style government to communism will be made possible in part because most people, including atheists, are already under a form of communist government by way of their religion. As we saw during the global crisis event of 2020, most individuals were all too willing to surrender their personal sovereignty and freedom to a government while turning to that same government to provide for them in their hour of need. Thus, government became their god. In the next few podcasts, we'll be discussing various aspects of this coming communism in much greater detail. For now, suffice it to say that the only sure safeguard against falling victim to this unsavory form of enslavement is by an embracement of the true Christian religion to the exclusion of government by man. This is South Bay, signing off.